Welcome, friends, to this series of learning Google Cloud databases. So, in the last lecture, we saw how we can create a high available regional Cloud SQL database. And in that particular lecture, we saw we can easily fail over the database from one zone to the other zone to use the standby replica when there is any disaster happens in the primary zone. Now, there is another concept of replicas which we are going to explore in this particular lecture. So if you have missed the earlier videos where we have discussed about the high available database instances with failover features, so please watch that video. We are highly recommending you to watch that video. All right. So this is our Google Cloud Platform Web Console, and we are in the Cloud SQL dashboard. Right now, we are on MyDB instance that we have created in the last lecture. And this particular MyDB instance is a regional database, which is a high available database. And right now, the database is located on US Central 1C. Now, we are going to create the replicas of these particular database. Now, what is exactly the replica? Now, if you are having hundred of connections bombarding your database and you are not able to horizontally scale your database to withstand with the connections, you have one options to create the replicas. Now, these replicas are actually the read replicas. So if you are having more read queries, so those connections are just, you are going to select the data from that particular database, but not going to write any data into the database. For example, you are not going to fire any insert command or update command or delete command in the database. So then your replicas are going to help you. So for example, you are a database in US Central 1 region, and your application is going to connect to Asia server, and that particular Asia server, the application is going to just read the data in order to make some query, and there is no intention of write the data from Asia specific zone. You can create a read replica in Asia zone so that the application in Asia can directly read the database, which is actually a read replica of US Central database. Now, what will help over here, your read is basically going to be served from the other instance, and the CPU, memory, and other server resources on US Central is not going to be utilized, so that your workload will be in a balanced way, so that your primary database is not going to be bombarded. Now, here in Google Cloud SQL instance, you can create multiple of read replicas. Say, for example, one read replica is going to be served from Asia, Delhi region, one in Singapore region, maybe two in Bombay region. Okay, so you can have multiple read replicas in different zones, and your application, which is nearest to the zone, can be served by these read replicas so that your connections will be balanced. Now, how you are going to create these replica? So over here in this left side panel, you can have these replicas, and right now we don't have any read replica. Now we can create one read replica. Now, for example, if there is any issue in the primary databases, whether it is single zone or single regional database, it is not going to help. I mean, you cannot use this read replica to fail over to the primary. It's a completely read replica. You cannot use these read replica to be served as primary database. But there is a concept of promotion of this particular Read Replica so that this Read Replica will be a complete standalone database. So we will come to that point. So here we are having two options, Enterprise Plus and Enterprise, just like we have created the main database in our earlier lecture. If you have missed that particular video, how we have created the database instance, you can definitely watch that video. We are going to recommend you to watch the video. So it is having the same kind of options that we're going to see right now. But see over here, Enterprise Class is completely visible. We cannot select these versions. So now, why this is happening? Because our main database of which we are going to create the replica is actually an enterprise database. Now, if you are having an enterprise database, edition cannot be changed during this replica creation. So the replica will also be an enterprise only. All right. So if you have created the Enterprise Plus database instance, the Read Replica will be Enterprise Plus as well. All right. So that is the reason you cannot select, but the form that is given to you, it is basically exactly the same how you have created the earlier one. So similarly, you cannot change the version. So if your main database is version 8, you cannot change the engine. But what you can do, you can change the instance name. So our main database is MyDB. So it is automatically provided one name dash replica. You can give any name. So I'm fine with MyDB replica right now. Now here the region, our main database was created in US Central 1 region. Maybe we can create it in separate region, or maybe we can keep the same region as well. Now here you can see there are lots of options, and few database regions are completely disabled, few are enabled. So you can, for example, if you want to create this in Jakarta, then you are not able to do that. So similarly, there are lots of regions are actually disabled to create the read replica, but we can create in South Carolina, for example, as our main database is on Central 1 Iowa region. Now, you can see the price estimation is that it's 2 vCPU, 8 GB RAM, which is actually we have configured by default. And we have the flexibility to change the machine configuration. So though we have created the database as 2 vCPU, 8 GB RAM, our read replica can be less than that or more than that. Even we can create the shared core database instance as well. So for example, we are going to create the same vCPU and RAM configuration, and we are going to have these connections as private IP mandatory, because our main database is having the private IP, but we can optionally click the public IP as well. So maybe we can keep this public IP open, and here we are going to have no other changes. Whatever we have in our form, we can go ahead and create these replica. So we can see this replica creation is in progress. So let's wait for some time until this replication is being created. All right, so after a couple of minutes, our replica database is created successfully. Now you can see the dashboard. We are having the main database that is MyDB, and we are having a replica of that particular database, MyDB replica, which is not highly available, but it is created on US East 1C availability zone, and we can definitely make it high available too. So we are not going to see that in this particular video, but that is absolutely possible. Now we are going to connect to this MyDB replica database to see how the data has been replicated in this particular database. All right. So we have seen that there is one public IP address has been assigned. Now we are having the private IP as well as a public IP because we have enabled the public IP during the creation of these MyDB replica. All right. So what we have done, we have created one VM instance. So this instance was created in the last lecture as well. So this instance was created in US Central 1A, but it was created in default VPC. So as the default VPC is having access of all the zones, and internally it can connect to any database which is internal to Google Cloud. So we are going to connect to these VM instance through Cloud Shell, and we have connected to the instance. Now, we are going to connect to our replica instance from here. So we're going to say MySQL -8, and we're going to provide this IP address, and we will say root, and password is whatever we have provided the password when we created the main instance. So here, just note that this root user ID and the password was not created during the replica instance because the user ID and password, whatever we have created in the main instance, those can be used to connect to these replica instance as well. So let's see, we have created one database called sample on the earlier lecture on the main database. And this sample database, if we are going to connect to the sample database from this replica instance, we can see our database is connected. So we can check the tables, those are created previously. We can see the employee table is there. So this employee table was created in the main instance database. And this is actually replicated in this replica instance as well. So if I say select asterisk from employee, we can see it has replicated the data as well. Now, what we are going to do, we are going to create another table, or we are going to populate the data in the master table, master database, and we can see whether these data can be replicated in this replica database as well. So what we will do, we are going to exit from this MySQL instance, and we are going to connect to our master database, which is located at this private IP address 10.89.64.3. We're going to provide that, and we will provide the user ID and password, and we have connected right now to the main master database. Now we are going to use the same sample database, and this time we're going to create another table, which is, we will say create table student and name, which is character of 50, and we will say ID, which is integer. And we are going to insert some data over there, insert into student values, and we can say Smith, and the student ID is Q3, and we see the table is inserted. The data is inserted in the table. Now, again, we will say RAM, and we will say 13, and this data is also inserted. Now we can check the student table. We see 2 rows are there. Now let's do one thing. Let's connect to the replica database. So this time our IP address will be changed to the replica one, and the replica IP is 65.3 instead of 64.3. So we will say 65.3, and we will provide the password. Now we are connected to the replica instance, and we will check. We are going to connect to the sample database, and we are going to check whether our data has been replicated over here. So it is student table, and let us check its student, yes, and we are going to see that immediately the data has been replicated to the uh, read replica instance. Now, if we are trying to create another table, create table student 2, and we are going to say the same thing like name character 50, and we are going to say ID is integer. And if we want to create the student two table inside the read replica database, uh, it is not going to allow the same because this MySQL server is running with super read only options because this is a read replica only. You cannot use this database to write anything. So, though this database can be created anywhere in the world, you cannot unload your right workloads in these through these Cloud SQL database. So these replicas can be used to read the data from Cloud SQL database instance, but you cannot use these read replica for write purpose. So that's all for today. We have learned how we can create the read replica of a particular database instance. And we will see how we can promote this read replica as a standalone database in the upcoming lecture. Till then, goodbye, take care. We will see you in the next lecture. Bye.